Hi Lucy, can you hear me? Luce, can you hear me? Oh. Hi, can you hear me? Oh, perfect. Thank you. Good. Okay. All right, we'll just wait a minute or so and then we can get started. Welcome everybody. Yay. Hi Danielle. Good to see you. So I can get started, I guess, just introducing and then we can get into the nitty-gritty down the track. I created this because, to be honest, I found myself being triggered often being in a new relationship. And of course, I had to really have a look and see where that triggering was actually coming from and what was causing it. And it didn't take me very long to realize that it was, the triggering was actually starting with me. So I guess everybody raise their hand if they've ever been triggered. I certainly, as I said, have been triggered a lot just recently. But I think most of us know that we've been triggered. Hi, Kitty. And I also know that most of us have experienced us triggering other people and maybe even walking away from it, just thinking, what the hell has just happened then? And so what I realized was that being triggered was wreaking havoc in our bodies and our minds. It was creating, for me particularly, a real sense of disease and discomfort in the body. So it's interesting that after, probably 8 months or so of me working on myself, hi Liz, that after working on myself, I've actually become what Rob describes me as is Teflon Cate. So he says that things kind of slide right off me, and that doesn't mean that I don't care. It just means that I've managed to work out ways to actually, hey Al, to overcome these triggers. So I really want to share them with you, and I absolutely want you to know and trust that they do work. They're perfect. So what we need to do is we need to understand first off that triggers are gifts in strange wrapping paper. So I'm not sure what everybody's actual belief is out there, hey Trish, but when somebody else triggers you, it is them loving you from a soul connection. So I had this beautiful woman in women's group actually telling me that part of her faith, which I think is a Hindu faith, is that every person that comes into this life to irritate us, trigger us, hurt us, physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever, has actually made a soul contract with us in the past life, and they've made a soul contract to come in and to help us on our path of clearing all of our karmic debt. So they actually came from a place of love. They've said, yeah, we're going to give up this lifetime, we're going to come in and we're going to take care of this beautiful person, and we're going to trigger the shit out of them so that they can evolve. So I don't know how you go with that, but basically what I think we need to do is we need to learn to trust in ourselves and trust in this process. I personally believe that we aren't in control of the bus that we call life. I believe that we come here in this soul journey, and basically the more we try to manipulate or change situations, the more difficult it is for us, and that the universe is sending us signs all the time. And sometimes we just get so busy and overwhelmed, we actually just don't get to see what those signs are. So I'm going to help you try to find those signs as well. There's this beautiful movie, it's a documentary called A Hero's Journey, which I absolutely love. And the hero's journey, according to Joseph Campbell, who wrote the book, I think it was back in the 50s, he says that we start out life in an ordinary journey. So imagine you're a young child, you're full of imagination and creativity up until about the age of 2, and you really are just pure soul. So it's fairly ordinary existence, but sweet. It's a sweet one, you know. And then we get a call to adventure. So that could be it could be just taking off overseas, it could be getting a great job, it could be getting a new partner, but there's something that changes in our life over time that calls us to adventure. Then we need to cross the first threshold into the unknown. So that's really stepping out of our comfort zone and just, really just shifting from that place of peace for a bit and going into a place that is a little bit unknown to us. When we're there, we experience trials and, foes and friends as well. So in that time, it's not all smooth sailing. We get this sort of period of time where we have new experiences coming in, and they're sometimes they're good and sometimes not so good. After that, we receive a magical mentor. And when we have the magical mentor, we experience the dragon's lair. So sometimes life will be going along beautiful, and then all of a sudden, boom, something really amazing happens out of left field. Somebody dies or in a car accident or something like that. Something happens to really shake you from your seat, and you might have got a little bit comfortable in that new job or new relationship, and then bam, you get whacked and you're shaken off that seat just for a period of time. After that, it's followed by a period of despair. Okay, so we get into this really flat period, and it really is up to us whether or not we stay in there for a long period of time or a short period of time. If we decide to move ourselves up out of there is actually, out of that place of despair, there's actually ultimate treasure that can be found. And once we actually take up the sword, I guess, and say we're going to go in for this challenge, then that's when we're on our way home, on our journey home to peace and to finding our soul and our life's journey. So just imagining that we're all on this soul's journey. It's not always particularly peaceful. Just when we're getting comfortable, I think most of you will understand what I'm talking about there, something happens that rocks us from our seat. That's supposed to happen. That rock is actually supposed to rock you so much that you start seeing the signs around you, and the signs are always there, and the signs will be telling you it's time to move, it's time to do things differently. My husband Rob says, one of the quoting you again, the definitions of, I don't want to use the word stupidity, but it's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. So we're getting called to adventure, we're getting called to evolve and to change all the time. And it's up to us whether or not we take this call. Right. What are triggers? I want to move into this quickly because there's a lot of content and I know I've only got an hour. So I'm going to move through as quickly as I can. If I need to recap, I will. I'm going to go through first of all in the first unit and talk about what are triggers, why do they hurt so deeply, what triggers can look like, why do they keep occurring, can we stop others from triggering us, and can you really stop yourself from being triggered? So first of all, what are triggers? Every trigger is an opportunity for you to see what needs to be healed, okay? What needs to be worked on for your evolution. So triggers are a result of our past traumas that we haven't dealt with yet. And I know you might be thinking, no, somebody said something to me and they really pissed me off. Well, you know what? They poked the bear. They poked the bear of something that you haven't resolved yet. So what you need to do internally is say, bless you, thank you. That's a bit of a jump right now from if this is the first time you're hearing this information, so bear with me. Triggers are a result of our past traumas and our dark shadows that we need to bring to the light. So what happens most of the time is we have this darkness, these dark memories and dark shadows that we don't actually want to remember, and we keep them behind us. And the space behind us is the unknown. There's often a lot of fear stored in that place of the unknown, and you see it actually in yoga when people go to do a back bend or camel pose perhaps. Sometimes they get very fearful of going backwards, and even they explain a sense of suffocation. It's because what is stored behind us is in the unknown, and it's also kept in the darkness. What we're asking you to do is bring that darkness to the light and look at it. And my beautiful teacher, A.G. Mohan, would say you can't walk into a dark room with a torch and the darkness still exists. So once we start to shine the light on our past traumas, then we can actually deal with them. And yes, it's painful, and no, it doesn't have to happen overnight, but it does need to happen for your evolution and for your happiness and for your peace of mind moving forward in life, okay? So C.J. Jung actually said one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of the light, but by making the darkness conscious. So most of the time we're living in our subconscious mind, which is the mind that we're not really aware of. It's been created by all of our actions and experiences from our past life. Our conscious mind, our fully conscious mind, is one that is evolving with our soul and our spirit. And our conscious mind is the one that we absolutely know the right thing to do. The subconscious mind has been manipulated by other people's values and, school teachers, grandmothers, mothers, parents, whatever, friends. But it is the accumulation of all of our experiences, and depending on how we perceive those experiences, we have filed them into certain filing cabinets in our brain, okay? So why do triggers hurt so deeply? They hurt so deeply because they're calling you to action to repair an old wound. And we know that as soon as we bring that darkness to the light, it's going to hurt for a period of time. But remember, if there's going to be any evolution or growth, we need to go into the dark stuff, okay? There's this beautiful thing in yoga that we call wise progression. So always remember that you go at your pace and what feels safe for you, and use wise progression. Don't just jump in the deep end. See if you can use some of the techniques at the end of this video to actually help you to move through at a wise pace. Something that's wise for you, not for your counselor, not for somebody else, but something that's going to be good for you. Okay, so if we don't do that, if we keep on distracting ourselves from healing, which is, I'm not saying that going to the gym is a bad thing or yoga, but some of the ways that we distract ourselves from seeing the dark side is going to the gym, going for a run, doing yoga, drinking lots of alcohol. That was me for many years. Working, filling your life in with so many things. Hey, Davina. So just getting overwhelmed with life outside of yourself. And I'll talk to you about that a bit later, but we need to call ourselves back to the self so that we can start to see the dark stuff. So what can triggers look like? Well, actually they look downright ugly. I don't know if you've ever witnessed yourself being triggered by somebody else, but it doesn't look good. It's not cool. It's not a good look. It's pretty ugly witnessing someone else. Well, it's probably just as ugly looking at yourself being triggered. And it feels bad, Triggers are often expressed as overt reactivity, so slamming the door, or in the heat of an argument, smashing a plate on the floor, or they might look like, exiting the scene, which really enrages the other person, because if you walk away, then they're triggered because they don't have any way to respond to that or any opportunity. Isolating yourself. How many people isolate themselves and start to tell stories like, I don't like being in crowds, or I don't like music festivals, or I don't like being in a group of girls because I don't feel safe. We have all these limiting beliefs that we start to build around ourselves when we're triggered And we do them to protect ourselves. They're great short-term strategies, but not long-term strategies. So boundaries are great strategies, short-term, but not long-term. So just remember that. Boundaries can cause loneliness, separation, depression, and triggers can invoke silence in people. Have you ever been just absolutely switched off by somebody and they just go into complete silence mode? That's pretty hard to deal with, and it's pretty damaging because most people need to be heard. It's a real need for us to be heard, okay? They can look like anger or rage, and that could be internal or external. They could be abuse or violence, physical or verbal. And I just want to quickly talk about verbal abuse. Verbal abuse is often, it's very, very damaging. It's damaging if you say it to another person. Say, you might say, you never do the dishes, or you never mow the lawns, or you're always forgetting my birthday, or all of these things are statements. You have to remember that statements build walls. So what happens when we are, when we're making a statement like that, you never do this, or you never do that, or you're always doing this, we actually are calling them to attack. And even the most calm person on the planet is going to be triggered at least a little by us attacking them. So just really be careful about the language that you use with other people, and rather than using statements, use questioning and use effective communication between each other. So the other part of language and communication is actually how you speak to yourself. So if you are triggered and you've reacted badly, rather than berating yourself and calling yourself stupid or idiot or foolish or childish or something like that, just allow yourself to sit with the uncomfortable feeling. Give yourself some time out. Ask your beautiful partner or boss or friend to say, can I have some time? I've been really triggered. I just need to go and work out what's going on. It's not you, it's me. I just need a little bit of time. Because 100% sure, if you are triggering somebody else, then that is their stuff to deal with. And you may or may not know what that is that you've triggered them for. It could be something from their childhood. It could have even been epigenetics. But from your heart, bless you. Don't feel sorry for them, but send them love and compassion that they will find healing for whatever is being triggered, because for sure it's linked to an old wound that needs to be healed. If you're being triggered by somebody else, it's nothing that they've done. They have innocently made a statement or said something to you and it's triggered. It's this call to action for this past wound that is coming up. And it's time. This is the universe saying, you pick this person, you pick that partner, you pick that boss, you pick that friend. They're all here to help us come back to peace. So when somebody else is being triggered by you, it's their stuff, and bless them. Send them compassion, and hopefully they'll be able to find what heals them. If you're being triggered by somebody else, 100% of the time it's stuff that hasn't been healed in you. It may not have anything to do with that conversation, but I can tell you that when you bring all of your triggers together and patterns, they're all coming from pretty much the same place, and it will be a trauma. Again, it could be this life, it could be epigenetics. So why do they keep returning? Well, as I explained before, they are unhealed traumas that haven't been able to be dealt with yet. For whatever reason, perhaps you've been avoiding them, perhaps you've been having children, perhaps you've had other things going on in your life. But certainly when you're being triggered, it's that cue. It's okay, this is time. We're getting nearer to the time to heal it. The other thing is sometimes it's generational and ancestral patterns that keep us suspended in our traumas. So look at maybe Indians, Calcutta, for example. They get kept in their caste systems, and some of their caste systems can be quite traumatic. It's all very well for us in the West to say, they want to be sewage cleaners or something like that, and they're happy with their life. Well, that's actually not really true if you go and speak to them. Some of their lives are quite traumatic, and it's just part of their ancestral expectations that they live in that role. You can go back to slavery and there was a period of time in slavery where there was just this expectation that they accept that these traumas. So again, sometimes you're not completely ready to bring them to the light, but just watch for the cues that are around you, the times that you're being called to do that work on the dark stuff. Okay, so next thing is, can I stop others from triggering me? Nice try. Nobody can ever trigger you. What you need to do is remember all the time that it's a gift in strange wrapping paper, okay? And can you really stop yourself from being triggered? 100% yes. You may not always get it right, but you will begin to lessen the effect of being triggered to the point where you can be triggered, you can stand there in real time, you can watch the sensation in your body, and you can actually watch that rising anger, resentment, whatever it is, you can actually watch it subside. So why do triggers occur? It's the forgetting of who we really are is why they actually occur, okay? Triggers occur when there's a misunderstanding of the nature of the mind. So in A Course of Miracles, they talk about nothing real can be threatened and nothing unreal exists. And what they're talking about there is that the soul is real, okay? And what is unreal is our illusory mind that perceives things to be a certain way. So it's no wonder, for example, you might have two siblings that were born up in the same house. You could even take twins, same parenting, same amount of love, same amount of affection, and actually both they're very different. And it's because they have perceived their situation in life based on their soul experience, the reason they came here to this body and this earth and this life. They've perceived things differently because they're on a completely different journey. So there's a mistake in our mind that when we're triggered, that we are in pain. So trauma is pain for sure, and I'll explain that just a little bit more as we go through. So a soul's journey, I'm not sure what your belief is, but this is mine. I've been studying yoga philosophy and lots of other philosophies for many years. My belief is that we start out on a soul's journey. We pick our parents, the parents that are going to help us move through our karma. And karma doesn't mean punishment. That's not what it's about. It's about what we're here to learn so that we can progress and evolve on a soul's level into our next life or whatever that may be. We pick our partners, we pick our bosses, and we pick our friends, and you'll see that amongst all of that there becomes a bit of a pattern in our life, and patterning is something that is super, super interesting. And if we don't sort out our dark stuff, the traumas and the latent impressions, the things that have affected us over our lives, and traumas don't have to be big like rape or abuse, they could be just, they could be just being ignored or not being treated properly. And again, that's your perception. But for you, it's very real, and I want to acknowledge that. Your soul comes into this journey, it knows exactly what it needs to do in this life to evolve. It knows the karma and it knows the dharma, and the dharma is the life purpose. Many of us end up in a life purpose, particularly when we're younger, going to university and studying and doing things that other people pressure us into doing. You're really good at mathematics, so you should be doing this, or you're really good at art, so you should be doing this. But along the way, often we forget our dharma, which is why we're here. And for sure, 100% our dharma is to serve ourselves, but to serve others. So first of all, we need to find the love for ourselves, and then beyond that, we need to find out how that love and our skills can help other people. And we can do that in all sorts of careers, but we need it to be coming from a place of love and intention. If you open up a restaurant and your intention is to make money, you know what, it's going to fail after a certain period of time. I see it in Canggu here every week. If you open up a restaurant because you love food, then there's going to be a real, and people, that's pretty important, food and people, isn't it? You really are going to find that you'll be successful. And if you follow your dharma, not your parents or your friends, then you will be successful in life. And success doesn't mean money, as I'm sure you all know. So trauma and pain are part of the journey. We just need to see the world differently to appreciate them. Soul is real, and everything else is a creation of our perspective and perception of the world. We choose the journey for our soul, and we choose our parents, and we choose the pain, and therefore we're subconsciously choosing our triggers. Why would we do that? Why would we step into something super painful so that we can evolve on a level to the next life, whatever your belief is, whether you believe in God or universe or quantum physics or, you know, whatever your belief is, there is a source. There was something that started all of this, and we are all trying to evolve and to live a better life. I don't know anyone that wakes up in the morning and thinks, I'm going to have a really shit life. So the thing about the parents, though, is that just because you picked your parents and then they were super abusive, or maybe you just realised that maybe they didn't treat you as well as you've been treating your kids or whatever, don't call them. Don't call your parents, because you know what? They're on their soul journey too, and they're a product. All the things that they did wrong, that you've perceived to be wrong, are a product of their upbringing, of their epigenetics, of their ancestral journey. And you know, I'll go back to that. I don't think anybody gets up and says, I'm going to be an asshole today. I think most people get out of bed thinking that they're going to try and be a great human being, consciously or unconsciously. That's why we're all here. But unfortunately, these pains and these hurts get in the way, and they confuse the mind, so we treat ourselves and other people badly. I hope that makes sense to everyone. So the nature of the mind. So again, we've just talked about the nature of the mind. If we actually really understood who we are, then we would understand that we're perfection already, and that what we are experiencing is not real. We would then understand that nothing that anyone could do or say to us could break us, nothing at all. And that, again, when we're being triggered or hurt by somebody or injured, that it's an opportunity for growth. Soul is real, so it can't be broken. Mind can be broken because it perceives itself that way, okay? Mind is our ego, and ego and peace are always at war with each other. You just think, you know, you'll be walking along a beautiful path in nature and you're just swamped by beautiful thoughts of being in the nature, and the sun's shining on your skin, and then all of a sudden you think about the bill that you haven't paid, or a fight that you had with a friend or a partner, and peace is diminished or finished, you know, for that period of time. Ego is always trying to keep you from that peace, because obviously if we're in the total state of samadhi, then we're no longer here. In this existence, we're not trying to get to total samadhi until at least the day that we take our last breath. We're just trying to find a balance between peace, and the way we do that is to find equanimity. If we really understand soul and understood that we were perfection, then we would understand equanimity. And equanimity means there is no right or wrong, there just is, okay? And the sooner that we actually understand that there is no right or wrong, there just is. My teacher, Rod Stryker, says the only time we're awake is when we're asleep, and the only time we're asleep is when we're awake. What he's referring to there is that when we're asleep, we're actually fully in our conscious mind, when we're in our REM sleep, and when we're awake, we're in our subconscious or unconscious mind. Remembering that the subconscious mind and the unconscious mind is the accumulation of all of our experiences up until now. So boundaries can create impenetrable borders. And again, I said before, creating boundaries keeps us super safe, but they're not a great long-term strategy. They're a good short-term. If you're going through life saying, I don't trust people, I don't trust this person, I don't like dogs, because perhaps you were bitten by a dog when you were younger, you know, I would like to say, how's it working for you in life? How's your love life? How's your working life? How's your relationships with yourself and others? How is your health, and how's your sleeping patterns, and how's your sense of freedom? If you answered not so good to even one of those, then I would say start to look at the boundaries that you're putting up. Because when you put up boundaries, you'll see the opposite, or the connection to your limiting beliefs, and then we can start getting rid of our limiting beliefs. How do they actually affect us in a cellular level? Well, we can feel uncomfortable, maybe get itchy fingers and hands. We can get pain or a bloated stomach. So, I've gone for years talking about having gluten problems, and I know a lot of you will be laughing now, allergies, but I've now realized that when I'm upset or triggered, my stomach bloats. So I don't eat gluten, but my stomach will bloat even if I've eaten no food. And that's because we've got all of these, we've got neurons in our stomach as well. And so when we are upset by something, of course, the energy there is going to shift, and it's quite true that we can become bloated, and we can go into substance abuse. That's something else. We can go into blame, shame, and guilt. That's something else that happens to us when we are triggered. Just going through to pain and trauma, I want to ask you who or what is actually choosing pain. Because if you're not choosing pain, if you're not turning up, so say you're in an abusive relationship and you're still there, if you're not choosing the pain, then who is? So who is? And I can tell you 100% it's your subconscious. And if it's your subconscious, because your conscious mind wouldn't do that. Your conscious mind loves you without doubt, with no conditions. Your conscious mind is there to keep you safe and loved. If you're in a relationship or a situation where you are in fear, then I'm asking you, who is choosing that? It's not your conscious mind, it's your subconscious mind. And the talk that's behind the subconscious mind is actually it's the past trauma coming up, okay? So it's our past traumas, it's our values or our parents' values that have been inflicted on us. It's school, conditioning from parents, work, colleagues, friends, newspapers, our patterns. Fear actually helps us to be triggered, because often we have fear building up inside of us, often related to our beliefs, and that can alone be something that will trigger us. Again, it's not what the other person is saying or doing. So this is a great example. If you were really young and someone threw a ball at you and it hit you in the face, it's likely that after a period of time, if someone throws a ball at your face, you might flinch because you had fear. So is it true that every time someone's going to throw a ball at your face, it's going to hurt? No. But that's a triggered response. You get super triggered by that, and maybe you don't even play ball for the rest of your life. But we do this, we do this all the time. We're just not watching it. And when we have these patterns that keep on repeating for us, we also have this self-sabotaging behavior. So, for example, if we've had a parent that's abused us, then we will sabotage that. If we have a partner who is trying to be loving and kind to us, we will sabotage that moment. So just remember, we are the sum of our past experiences, right? A.G. Mohan, again, one of my teachers, he was a student of Krishnamacharya, would say we have these latent impressions. So the ball being thrown in the face is a good example of them. Maybe going up to your mother or your teacher with a beautiful piece of artwork and then saying, oh, somebody else did a much better job of theirs and they were younger than you. And then all of a sudden you don't go near art again for maybe your lifetime, or maybe until you go into adult education or something down that you've been triggered. So maybe the next time you go to show somebody something, even as an adult, you have this unsettled feeling inside of you that you may be rejected. And then maybe if you did take something, a presentation to a boss, and they say to you, well, it's not really up to speed, you may be triggered from this trauma that you had before. So remember that traumas don't have to be big. They can be small ones that are significant enough for you to cause a latent impression in your body and your mind, okay? So if we can, we need to look at triggering traumas as being a gift, and I know that is really difficult. But it is really about the way that we perceive our traumas, and I just want to give you one more example, and then I'll move on from that. But in the Philippines, when there were huge, the big tornadoes and they had catastrophic typhoons. A heap of psychologists went in there to help the Filipinos get through emotionally, and they went into really remote communities where the worst damage had happened and where they were the poorest to try and rebuild the community. And what they actually realized is that the community rebuilt them. They taught them that they had resilience. They didn't have this expectation of entitlement, and also they had this capacity that when something happened to them, they didn't file it in the part of the brain that was trauma. They accepted it as an experience, and then they moved on from there. So that's what I'm really starting to ask people to do, but there's certainly ways that can do that. Just checking in on the time. Okay. So I want to talk to you about the path of pain. I can't show you it now, but Sean Goldberg, my beautiful friend from Samasti Yoga, he drew this beautiful diagram. So I'll give you two examples, and I'll tell you now that the traumatic part of the brain, the limbic system, can't tell the difference between emotional pain or physical pain. So you break your leg and it's traumatic, and the brain recognizes that as a trauma, or you break your heart and it's traumatic, the brain recognizes it as a trauma. Same thing, okay? So what I want to show you is that we have a choice, and the choice is called free will. So just imagine that you bent over to pick up your socks off the floor in the morning and you put your lower back out. So you have two choices. The first one is to say, well, I've hurt my back. I'm going to have to go to the physio, but I don't have enough money to go to the physio. If I don't go to the physio, I won't be able to go to work, and if I don't go to work, I could lose my job. If I lose my job, I'm not going to be able to pay my mortgage, and if I don't pay my mortgage, I'll lose my house. If I lose my house, my wife will probably leave me because we're on thin ice anyway, and then I'm going to be on my own. And if I'm on my own, I may be on my own forever, and I'll become anxious. And then when I'm anxious, I'll probably become depressed. And then it becomes this spiral of thoughts that you can stay in for as long as you like. So 27 years, 30 years, just pick that number, 27. So the other side is to choose the path of love. So there's a path of pain, the path of love. The path of pain, the path of love is, oh, I've hurt my back. I'll need to rest for a while. I will be back as soon as my back is feeling good. And I love my back. I love my back. I love my back. And then I'm back at work and life is good. It's a very different way of looking at it. Because the initial way of, oh my God, I can't afford to go to physio, maybe it just needed you to lay down for 12 hours and with your knees propped up or something like that. If we go into automatic trigger and panic mode, then we're going to stay in a cycle of pain, and it can just get out of control. So using exactly the same example on an emotional level, you walk in and you see your husband in bed with somebody else. And he realizes that and so afterwards you make a decision to stay. And you say, what did I do to cause this? Why did he do that? Am I not enough? Am I not attractive? Am I too fat? Am I too skinny? And then if I do leave, well, it's going to be embarrassing. And then if I do leave, then I might not ever find anyone else. I might be on my own. And if I'm on my own for the rest of my life, I'm going to become very sad and heartbroken. And then I'll become anxious and depressed, and I'll be alone all of my life. So that's choosing the path of pain. The other path, which I love, is the path of love, is bless you, I love you. Bye. Bless you, I love you. Thank you for the lesson. Thank you for that beautiful gift. So at any moment, we actually get to choose the path of pain or the path of love. Our mind is what is choosing, Our mind informs the brain informs the body, and this is how we can actually bring illness and dis-ease to the body. When our mind informs the brain then tells the glandular system, the endocrine system, how many chemicals to deliver through the brain in that particular time. So it could be happy chemicals, it could be sad, depressive chemicals, it could be anxious chemicals like adrenaline or cortisol. Your mind makes up the initial decision whether or not something is painful or not. It then informs the brain affects the body. So we need to know that, okay? That's pretty important. I can send anybody that beautiful diagram if you like. I want you to also remember that all fear comes from love. So all fear comes from love. And I'll use this example that if somebody hurts you terribly in a terrible, terrible way, you can't even imagine, but say we're fearful of terrorists. Well, you know, terrorists are doing what they're doing because they love what they believe to be right so much that they are trying to protect that. And it's a misunderstood mind. We make the same mistake every time, that we mistake our mind, okay? So all fear comes from love, okay? And all unconscious actions come from love. And I know that's really hard to hear, but these people are moving from an unconscious mind and they don't know it because their mind is mistaken. They have misperceived a certain situation at a certain period of time to have been hurt or injured, and in that moment that they forgot that they were perfection and that soul cannot be touched, they actually made the choice to choose the path of pain. And I know this is really hard because we can't talk to kids under 2, and of course there's a lot of children, or very young, even under 7, under 10, young children that are being hurt. Most of you have probably experienced some sort of trauma in your life when you were a young child. But the people that have hurt you were coming from an unconscious space. They didn't consciously set out to hurt you. It was an unconscious decision to do that. And what we need to do for the sake of healing ourselves is send them compassion. Forgiveness implies judgment, and judgment is not of us. It's not something that we should never be judging another person for anything. So if judgment is not of us, then it seems like forgiveness is you know, it shouldn't even really exist, the concept, but it needs to exist because it's the only way that we'll find peace. It's the only way that we can actually move on from where we are to actually find peace. So we need to start finding compassion for the people who are triggering us. We need to find compassion for the people who have wounded us and see what it is truly, which is a gift in strange wrapping paper. And it takes a while to work that out, but once you work it out, you will find that you start to be triggered much less, and your life is much easier. You know, and you can change it easily by just, you know, by being conscious, being witness to the thoughts that you have when somebody that you don't even know triggers you, like someone cutting you off in traffic. You know, don't go for the default, oh, you fucking dickhead, or whatever it is, because that's probably what your mum or dad said when you were sitting in the back of the car, in the car seat when you were a little kid. What I want you to know is it takes a spark of willingness to change. There is this spark inside of us, and it's called ojas. In yoga, we call it ojas, and it's very, very important that we understand that we all have that spark in there. But as I said before, it gets clouded with all of the other stuff that we have going on in our lives. If you're happy with things going on in your life, ask yourself that question that I asked before: how are things working out for you? How's that really working out for you? Are you just are you just masking it because it's much easier to mask it? Well, it's not easier, because eventually it will come up in your body somehow. 2.5 years ago, I had Hashimoto's, which is a autoimmune disease, and I don't have it anymore. I've cured it by doing work on myself, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and obviously changing my diet in a big way. You are, as souls, we are always yearning for ourselves and others to be more at peace. I'm pretty sure you don't want actually for anybody else to feel bad either. I think everybody else is coming from this place of wanting peace. And we need to start to take action. So these are some of the things we can do to prepare ourselves for unraveling the dark within. The first thing is be like a lotus flower. So the lotus flower has to have its roots steeped in mud. You never see a lotus flower in a nice clear pond, right? It will not bloom. And that's why the lotus flower is used in yoga as a metaphor for reaching down into your shitty stuff and then blooming from there, okay? It also represents the crown chakra. But be the lotus flower. Reach down as deep as you can and get into that murky stuff and bring it up to the light so that you can shine, so that you can bloom. That's super, super important. The next thing is to start feeling sensations. So moving through life, I want you to start really feeling rather than thinking. And I did this as a practice for a couple of months. Every time I went to say, I think, I would stop myself and say, I feel. So rather than thinking our way through the world, which is our subconscious mind driving things, I want everyone to start feeling their way. How does that really feel inside? Do I really want to eat peanut butter or ice cream? Do I really want to eat that? Do I really want to go and have coffee with you? All of that sort of stuff. Feel into it and really respond to that, because every time you respond to the feeling, you're going to build your intuition and your inner strength and your inner knowing, because you would have heard the statement before. Every morning you wake up, you already have everything that you need. We have the knowledge inside of us. We've just forgotten. So be the rememberer of yourself. Just keep trying to tap into that remembrance, because it's there. I witnessed this extraordinary event. My dog Mindy, most of you will know Mindy, gave birth to 6 puppies all on her own. She didn't read a book. You know, she remembered how to do that from her genetics, and we have the same capacity. We don't need to read books. We don't need to read journals. We just need to remember. So remember. Practice non-judgment. Really notice how many times you're judging others and yourself. And when you do catch yourself, don't judge yourself for that. Just say, isn't that interesting that I thought that? That's really interesting. Maybe a little weird, kooky, whatever. But don't get bogged down in, oh, I'm so bad for thinking that or whatever. Just allow yourself to think it, witness it, and just move through it. It's just becoming more clear on what's actually popping up in the mind. What is coming up in the subconscious? Meditate as often as you can. You can do it for 5 minutes. You know, I've just put a heap of meditations up on Insight Timer, so you can go in and have a look at that. I know Rachel's got some up there, and Rachel Fernie, so go in and have a look. Hers are fantastic as well. But meditate with music, meditate with no music, meditate with bells. Just meditate. Do it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you can, and don't worry if your mind drifts off. You know, even the great gurus will talk about the annoying dog next door that barks. Don't worry about it. Just keep bringing your mind back to stillness whenever you can, and let it drift and bring it back. Let it drift and bring it back. It's okay. Eventually it will sit in stillness longer than it will sit in that sort of barking dog next door space. Witness your transitions in life. Witness when you're going from being asleep to awake. So when you put your head down on the bed, witness yourself going to sleep, and then in the morning ask yourself before you go to sleep to witness yourself waking up. What do you do as soon as you wake up? Do you grab your mobile phone? Do you stretch and yawn? What are the thoughts that are going on in your head? Are you berating yourself for feeling old and stiff? Are you berating yourself for not having enough sleep or too much sleep? What is actually going on in your mind when you wake up? Do you go to the toilet straight away? Do you brush your teeth? Are you in some sort of locked in pattern? Change what you're doing. Witness your transitions. Witness every moment of your day and do it for a day. And then if you can do it for a day, do it for 2 days. And then if you can do it for 2, 3, 4, 5, start witnessing every transition that you make and say, where is this coming from? Is it learned behavior or is it inherent knowledge from inside of me? Witness your patterns, and I'm pretty sure you'll all know what I'm talking about by now. Go back through your past, look at all your dodgy relationships and the things that you chose, and witness that and know that you are choosing that, and now it's time to choose something different. Just see there is a common thread going through. Bring your shadows to the light when you're ready. Only when you're ready. Don't get forced into doing it, but if you feel that bubbling coming up, that anxiousness, this is a call to action. This is for you to start facing what you really need to face to get to the other side, crossing the threshold so that you can find peace. Have open, honest and vulnerable conversations with your friends and family. Please do that. You know, I've said this may be a little crude for some people, but in relationships particularly, whether it's husband and wife, girlfriend and boyfriend, girlfriend and girlfriend, guy and guy, whatever it is, you know, we have intimate sex where we bare our most vulnerable parts of our body to each other, yet we can't sit down with our partner and tell them exactly what we're feeling at that time. So be that vulnerable and share everything with them. And you know, most of the time we're probably walking around clueless about what's going on in their lives because we haven't been privy to it. So once we open up and be vulnerable, we're starting to give them the permission to be vulnerable as well. So meditate, go to kirtan and unleash the spirit of transformative powers of the vibration of those ancient vows, because they have got these power in them. They're unlocked. There's about 4 of them that you are able to share, and they're for everybody to heal. So if you can get to a kirtan, I know that we're doing them online at the practice, and yeah, just go to the practice website, but I'm sure that you'll find plenty of them online as well. Spend time in nature. You know, get out in nature as often as you can and be quiet. Stop filling your time with stuff. Stop filling your time with racing here or racing there. See if you can be still and be quiet. I was busy for 27 years and I got very, very sick. I stopped, I faced my dark stuff, and now I'm well. I think overcoming an autoimmune disease gives me cred to say that I actually know that this has worked for me, and I know that it can work for you. I have other modalities that can help you. I call one of them the final apology, and basically this is when you've been so hurt or injured that you really do need an apology, and perhaps you're not going to get it from a person because they're in jail or they're dead or you just can't go near them anymore. Well, you know, I can apologize to you on your behalf, and it's super, super powerful. Muscle testing, I use muscle testing, all sorts of variations, and muscle testing to find out when you've been, to find out as a diagnostic tool what your traumas and your limiting beliefs are. So we can bring them to the light. If you're ready, I can help them. If you're sort of a little bit stuck, bring them to the light. Emotional freedom technique, EFT, the tapping, I think a lot of people are familiar with that. It's an excellent tool. Rapid eye movement therapy, another brilliant tool. It works very, very quickly to move people through their traumas and their limiting beliefs. Correction of thought therapy is something very new and exciting that I really want to start sharing with people, but yeah, I certainly do that online, and I offer everybody that's watching this a 15-minute free discovery call, and I will clear one of your limiting beliefs for sure, and it'll be a big one. I promise you it'll be one of your big ones that'll start you on a journey of healing. Strengthen your communication skills. Use your voice. Don't be afraid. That's what we're here for, to create and recreate with our voice. Also transformational breath work. If you're near anybody that can do that one-on-one or in a group setting, I absolutely 100% would recommend that. It's brilliant. And inner child therapy, that's going back, holding the hand of the little child and working with that little child and telling her that, or him, that you are safe and loved, and it's time to move from that fearful place that you've created into the beautiful adult that you are and start to shine. Because that fear, that trauma was there to protect you. You're no longer in a place of fear. And if you are in a place of fear and you're feeling unsafe, leave. Leave. Do whatever you can to leave if you're feeling unsafe. So finally, be kind to yourself and be kind to your loved ones, okay? I really want you to be very, very kind in the way that you speak to yourself, in the way that you speak to your loved ones. Remember that you are love having a human experience. You are love having a human experience. And a handy tip from a pro, when you're being triggered, say maybe to the person that is seemingly triggering you, I'm being triggered right now, I'm just going to need some time. It's not you, it's me. I really might need some time out. Thank you. You know, and you can take your time, you can journal. It may only take you a couple of seconds to work it. Allow yourself to feel all the emotion with that trigger. Because as soon as you try to shut it down, you're going to be shutting down the darkness again and putting it back into the dark. Allow that feeling and that sensation to come up. It's absolutely perfect, okay? One more tip is Rob and I have this beautiful practice that if one of us says something that's unconscious to the other, that may cause a bit of a triggering event, and we know that it's that it's an unconscious. Is to say, honey, can I have another go at that? Or help them out if they've said something unconscious. You know, honey, would you like to have another go at that? You know, and smile, use a soft tone. Otherwise they might think it's a bit of a smart ass thing, but it works beautifully for us, because what happens sometimes, we will just retaliate, or we'll say something to someone in a moment, in a flash, we've been triggered. And this is the opportunity to fix it right there in real time. It's absolutely beautiful. So yeah, honey, would you like another go at that? Or babe, can I have another go at that? It works beautiful. That is a gift from me to you. I just finished my ebook this week and it's out for sale. I'll post it on the Whole Health Project so that you can have a look. It's half price at the moment. It's $11, just a special offer for the first month. And I'm about to launch a course called Evolve. So it's what we do beyond this being triggered and evolving into an absolutely new version of yourself. And in that, I will actually be doing all of those modalities. So rapid eye movement therapy and EFT and correction of thought therapy, inner child therapy, breath work. I'll be doing all of it. So babe, can I have another go at that? I love that. Me too, Lucy. It's honestly been the best thing that I've experienced, and you know, just such a blessing in our relationship, because of course, coming from two very different relationships, we have brought stuff with us. I don't like to call it baggage, because there's no such thing as that. We all have these experiences. We have this life that we've lived, and it's been a gift, and it continues to be a gift. So giving you all my blessings. I think I've said enough for now. Yeah, bless you. I'll put the handy tips up on the website as well, so you can look back if you didn't get a chance to write any of that down. Blessings and love to you all. Good night. Oh, thanks, JJ. Hey, JJ. JJ's just posted up the ebook link, which is super, super exciting. So I'd love you all to have a look at the ebook, and it's got stuff about quantum physics, religion, faith, relationships, communication, chakras, organs, glands, vayus, koshas. So bless you. It's got a lot in it. Good night. We love you too. Love you. Thank you, everyone.